we are talking the new creature feature, Killer Spider movie, ITSY BITSY. This one is directed by Micah Gallo, who also produced the film, and he actually comes from a special effects background, and this is his first foray into feature film directing. Has done a couple of shorts before, and you have a couple of kind of genre favourites here. Bruce Davison and Denise Crosby would probably be the most recognisable names here, though you also have our kind of main protagonist, character's called Kara, is played by Elizabeth Roberts, and she plays this mother of two kind of young children. She has mainly kind of TV credits before this movie, really, but she's this single mother who has had a traumatic past where she had lost her third child in a kind of an automobile accident, and she's basically accepted this job for a kind of a nurse for Bruce Davidson's character, who has kind of a debilitating disease, and she kind of essentially moves to kind of this house next to Bruce Davidson's character, who is kind of a Indiana Jones type, somewhat of an archaeologist, a collector of different kind of artifacts from around the world, and he has recently kind of come into possession of this called Black Egg, which is this kind of ancient artifact of tropical origin, shall we say, and it actually contains this giant spider which has been contained within this kind of egg, sort of ceramic egg, so to speak, and this gets broken and releases the spider, which of course then terrorises both the family living next door and Bruce Davidson's character. What will happen? You'll have to watch the movie to find out. So let's discuss what works first of all with ITSY BITSY. So obviously, the director coming from a visual effects background, you are going to expect some reasonable special effects here, and I'm pleased to say that it does not disappoint here, because there's a lot of practical effects that obviously, with the use of this spider, that really does look terrifyingly creepy. I mean, this is one kind of like aggressive arachnid, you might say. And the practical works here look suitably kind of gooey, and we do see quite a lot of our kind of like our spider. I mean, it's kind of the size of a dog, so it's kind of like not massively over OTT, but obviously still considerably bigger than anything we have in our kind of our real world. Enough to be kind of like certainly give you a second thought to go after it with that kind of rolled up newspaper, certainly. But I gotta say, the effects here are absolutely incredible. There's a little bit of kind of CGI, which is a little bit noticeable, but it's obviously a relatively low budget movie, so we can kind of be a little bit forgiving with that, I feel. But for the most part, the actual effects are all practical, especially with the kind of the close-up. So we kind of see it, you know, grow through its kind of lifespan, kind of shed its skin, so to speak. And it's obviously very kind of gooey and kind of gross effects that really do work, I feel. And this being obviously a practical effect for the most part, you know, and all these kind of like very kind of authentic looking webs and things like that, you do really get, when you have the scenes where it's interacting with kind of humans, obviously because there's something physically there for the most part, you know, you do get a good, I think, reaction from the cast here. And speaking of the cast, I thought they all did an excellent job here, and we have a couple of child actors. And sometimes child actors are a little bit of a gamble, even with high budget movies. And with low budget movies, obviously, you know, you sometimes run the risk of getting some bad child actors. And these two kids actually have very prominent roles within this movie. But I'm pleased to say that both the child actors do an excellent job. The little girl is absolutely adorable. And, you know, she's such a sweet girl. You don't want to kind of obviously see anything kind of obviously happen to her. And then the boy, who I think is around 13 in this film, you know, he actually has to step up and kind of beyond his years and kind of be the hero to a lot of the degree. So, and you know, I think he does an admirable job of kind of straddling the line between what a child would do and then, you know, what a child would do who's had to kind of step up and be the man of the house, so to speak, without, you know, being somewhat kind of rebellious, but without being kind of too disrespectful and things like that. So I thought that the line was very good. So those two child actors, I thought, did an excellent job here. And I thought our main sort of female character as well, our main protagonist, again does a great job here. I think maybe Denise Crosby's character seemed a little bit like not particularly realistic, if I'm honest, but I don't think she would have necessarily a bad job acting here. Now, the bulk of the action kind of lays within the final act of this movie, and the final act is suitably kind of like terrifying and thrilling, because this spider, you know, if it does bite you, it's going to inject you with a kind of a venom, which is going to incapacitate you, which prevents obviously people from being able to escape that easily, which I think is a good conceit, and obviously it gives kind of high drama. It's not a particularly gory film, but I feel what we do have on screen is kind of suitable, with the exception of one effect, which we'll come on to. Yeah, for the most part, the gore here, although it's relatively restrained, I feel is you know, is pretty good. It's all kind of like fairly kind of realistic. What doesn't work for me, I think the story is relatively mundane. It actually feels a lot like a kind of a film that you would see in the kind of the early 2000s. These kind of like very kind of like you used to get a lot of these kind of creature features then, and you know their story is passable. There's nothing wrong with it necessarily, but it doesn't really do anything new with the genre, so to speak, and it's more or less the kind of story-wise at least you know, a humdrum kind of like creature feature. You know, it's a very similar story to Arachnophobia, if we're being, you know, if we're being kind of compare that to another spider film, albeit with a kind of a bigger spider. But yeah, there's no real surprises in regards to the kind of the plot here. I think it's a relatively workman-like sort of script, albeit with decent special effects and good performances. I feel maybe that the spider maybe kind of doesn't come into effect until a little bit later than I would have liked. There is a couple of victims earlier on, but our family aren't really aware of the spider until you know, 70 minutes into the film. I would have maybe introduced it to maybe 10 minutes or so before that. It just seems to be a little bit too kind of late in the game. For me personally, because you feel like there's a lot of kind of like family drama. The movie relies a lot on kind of having these flashbacks, particularly with the mother and her backstory. And I felt like we maybe had one flashback too much, to be honest, because I got where it was, what the message it was trying to say, the way she's kind of feeling guilt about her, you know, the third child and stuff. And I feel it kind of, the movie really wants you to kind of understand this, and keep showing you these flashbacks of this kind of this car accident, and I get it, you know, I get it. So I think just maybe it just shows its hand a little bit too much on that, and maybe that's because our director here is relatively, you know, new to the actual directing game. So maybe story beats and stuff were just a little bit kind of over-explained to a certain degree. Minor quibbles, like I've said, I feel like Denise Crosby's sheriff character just seemed a tad kind of unrealistic, and not as a realistic character as the other kind of, you know, characters that we have in this movie. And then, like I said, there are a couple of instances where there are some CGI enhancements. They kind of look like CGI enhancements. Now, the ones I can forgive are the ones where we have our spider in motion. There's also an effect, and it's just, you know, we're talking a few seconds on screen here, where we have a body which has been touched up by CGI, and again, it kind of looks like CGI, which I felt that one you could have done a little bit more just with the kind of makeup, essentially. But the movement ones I can kind of forgive. Not that they're bad, but you just kind of notice that they're CGI. But overall, I've got to say, this is a very enjoyable creature feature. It's nothing new to the genre, but I feel it's well acted, has good characters, and, you know, gruesome special effects, and an okay story. And that's really, I think, going to please most fans of this genre. I don't think you can level too many legit criticisms outside of its relatively kind of like a humdrum story and doesn't really going to do anything new. But, you know, it's enjoyable for what it is. So I will give this movie a 7 out of 10. I feel it does what it sets out to do and does it pretty well, and has some likeable, memorable characters. Have you seen it? What did you think of it? Leave me a comment, and I shall look forward to seeing you next time. Bye for now.